People believe things because they think it sounds true. Like, oh, that sounds like it could be true. It's like, okay, well, how about we make sure it's actually true? This sounds like it could be, though. Like, okay. Okay, buddy. But... Who is Trump fighting for? USA, China, Russia. My YouTube Shorts stream is up. Again. Again. Beautiful.
The truth is that for now, his most
Chill.
objectionable actions have taken place. The truth is that for now, his most objectionable actions have taken place almost entirely within our designed democratic system. Like the
Donald Trump proved that you can do anything, and people actually need to stop you, you know? A lot of our institutions are norms and things people abide by choice. It's not like a magical ghost that prevents you from doing wrong or prevents you from doing something illegal. So like you don't care about the courts at all, because who's going to enforce the laws if you have totalitarian power?
confirmation process. Despite claims of meritocracy, Trump has put forth some of the least LinkedIn people you could imagine. I don't know what responsible hiring process you can create that looks at this.
I'm going to get another refill. Hold on. I'm feeling good. You know,
Bro, he's such an alcoholic. He has all the telltale signs of a crazy, like an insane alcoholic. From someone who like has been around a lot of, I've been around a lot of alcoholics. He has every sign of an extreme, like, hey Seth, bro, oh.
add a little bit of extra. It's already in there anyway. What do we care? Down goes Seth. Duncan Dad.
He had a liquor cabinet in every office he ever worked in, too. He could not even go to work without having liquor fully stocked.
New Year's Eve.
Is he drinking it with his hand out of the dunk tank?
Who's that guy? I want him leading defense.
He needs to be leading a talk group at AA right now. Like AA or like some type of rehab, bro. Crazy.
And how did this individual, who has never so much as successfully managed a Waffle House pop-up, gonna run the 3 million people Department of Defense?
Yeah, Pete Hegseth got kicked out from every nonprofit he ever worked for. He could not survive on a nonprofit, let alone this job. But Hegseth is doing what Trump wants, which is loyalty tests and also getting rid of the wokeism, the woke ideology.
But he wasn't foisted upon us by a dictator. There was no authoritarian end run, no royal edicts. This shit happened to us as designed.
Yeah, but it's a system that, you know, certain people have too much money, and the big money is going to make people vote in a certain way. And the far-right parties are always going to be pro-big money because they're anti any type of regulation. So that means they're anti-regulation that is going to restrict corruption and restrict companies from getting too big. But yeah, people voted for this because democracy does work. It does work. You know, if America cared as much about universal healthcare as they care about Trump, we'd have universal healthcare. You know, countries that have universal healthcare now, there was a time that they did not have universal healthcare. They did not always have that. They did not, it did not, like, their country was not born with universal healthcare. They had to advocate for it and fight for it.
Advise, but mostly consent. Passed through the Armed Services Committee, put through a Senate vote. 3 Republicans, of course, made a show of, this is the most outrageous, I cannot in good conscience, because they knew they could lose 3. It was a f***ing performance. And J.D. Vance broke the tie democratically. Trump's using the almost absolute power we have constitutionally granted him and the Republicans. Because this is Trump's theory in governance.
And Joe Biden had Trump for the Tea Party.
He's already laid it out to not President Bush in 2005, back when he was still accessing Hollywood.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy.
That's his governing philosophy.
And all of Trump's supporters have a power fantasy. They are weak, insecure people, typically, if you are a MAGA loyalist, you need this big strong man to tell you where to go because you don't have any way to sort through your emotions. You have anger and fear because those are primitive emotions. And for complicated problems, you need to turn towards your big daddy. And that's why I say you're Trump sexual, because if you don't have critical thinking or discipline, and if you lash out and you have fight or flight as your only reaction, in today's modern world, things are very scary and complicated. So this one person rises up as the strong man in society. You could say the big brother. That's why there's a lot of paternalism and patriarchy built into this, necessarily, because it's weak men chasing and adoring that man at the top who they view as the head honcho, the Andrew Tate, the wealth, the luxury, the most insecure men you could possibly think of on the planet. They need to show their wealth. They can't just be good at things. They need to convince people. I need to convince you that I'm good at stuff. I can't actually be good at stuff. Those people love Trump. They love listening to Drake. And yeah, I don't know why I said that. Kendrick won.
For all of it. Appointing people, firing people, writing executive orders, taking Greenland, making Wikipedia-like edits to the literal globe.
Yeah, the paradox of intolerance, you can't be tolerant to intolerance or the intolerant takes over. Very weak men can take over societies. If the strong men want a civil society, being uncivilized alone can be enough to destabilize things. It's easier to destroy, it's easier to break things apart than it is to build them. So you don't need to be very smart or good at anything. You can suck at life and destroy things. And yeah, FDR was not tolerant to intolerant people, so... Big point there. Thank you for that super chat. Well, intolerant for Nazis at the time, because he did pass some, pretty sketchy policies on race, FDR did, but it was a long time ago. But when it came to being sympathetic to the Nazi party, he was not very tolerant at all of that.
But unfortunately, as of now, he's pretty much just democratically grabbing our pussy. Yeah, we said yeah. He has the consent of the people.
Bro, they call him daddy. Republican Congress people call Trump daddy. They say daddy's coming home. Daddy took the belt off. Daddy's ready to discipline you. They have a power fantasy. That's what it is.
For God's sakes, his deportation orders are so popular, they have collabs.
TV personality Dr. Phil tagged along on a Chicago raid.
You've never been deported before?
Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil.
Yeah? How do you know me?
No, I seen Dr. Phil, on TV.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you know me?
Does he actually think, I don't know, bro.
You've been in one thing.
You've been in one thing. With your name.
How do you know I'm Dr. Phil? Because you're on the Dr. Phil show. You're Dr. Phil.
The ruling class never thought it would be so easy to take over. They never thought it would be so easy. But now they can get people to believe literally anything. Literally anything, dude. They said the government's corrupt. Let's make it more corrupt. And they're like, yeah, let's go after the elites. And by elites, they meant wokeism. Whatever wokeism means to them. That's a DEI hire, bro. Any person they see that's not white is now a DEI hire. If they have a pilot who's black, obviously, in their minds, they think that person's not qualified. And now Trump is rolling back civil rights executive orders from LBJ. Really great times. Make America great again? Great again to win. What year? Trump says America was the most wealthy in 1890. Yeah. I guess, when people said make America great again meant the 60s again. No, they want to roll back the 60s, go to the 50s, and they want to bring back the economic conditions of the 1800s. And they want us to be just competing empires that are constantly at war. We got sick of stability. Somehow Trump can say the Gilded Age was a good thing, when the Gilded Age's name meant not good. Inequality, the rich having too much power, calling right now the Golden Age. It's amazing. It's so this is what happens when people don't remember history and they don't study history. It repeats just like this. It's crazy. There's books predicting. Read It Can't Happen Here. I think the author's name is Sinclair Lewis. He wrote it in a very short amount of time, but it's about it cannot happen here in America. I forget what year was written, but essentially it talks about what a far-right fascist dictator would need to look like to take power in America. And it really does describe kind of the Reagan Trump-esque person.
How do you know me? Oh, weren't you in Goodfellas? No, you're Dr. Phil. I'd know that little egghead anywhere. Little bald mustache, southern drawl. What do you know that? How do you know me? That picture. I guess Dr. Phil finally cashed someone outside.
Boo. 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 Bad joke. Boo.
How about that?
Boo. Stop.
Wait, no. Let me finish. We're almost done. Look, the Trump administration was clearly ready for this. It was almost as though they had some project for what they might do in 2025.
No way. Yeah, the media not covering this at all when we had such clear journalism and undercover recordings of them admitting they are the Trump campaign. But somehow all Trump had to say was, that's not me. I would never do that. And they just took his word for it, bro. They just took his word for it. The supposed left media in America, the supposed liberal media in America just took Trump's word for it. Absolutely uncanny.
And they're so emboldened, they're not even stopping on American shores.
The president said he thought more than 1 million Palestinians in Gaza could be moved to nearby Arab countries.
What the f?
Yeah, bro. Trump's gonna be better for Palestine, as he calls for the ethnic cleansing of the region, and removes every restriction Israel ever had. And also, Trump supporters crying about Ukraine funding. They want to just give that up to Russia, but it's okay to give whatever money to Israel, because you just do whatever Daddy Trump tells you. You Trump sexual.
So emboldened, he wants to start deporting people from other people's countries.
But a lot of it is essentially, they want that fight, is what this says right here. It's a CNN clip. I don't care about CNN, but they want this fight. They want to challenge the systems. They're waiting to see if the system fights back. And the system is not fighting back. And all we have is Hakeem Jeffries, who is the least motivational public speaker I've ever seen. The fact that we have Hakeem Jeffries commanding all of our communications is such a depressing thought to even just think about. Hakeem Jeffries being the #1 messenger for Democratic politics in the House. It's so painful. It's so painful. So painful. Oh man, I can't believe it. They want that fight, and we're sending out the worst fighters.
Truth is that for now, he's not, how dare he, though? The question should be, what are you learning from this? How would you use this power? What's your contract with America? Democrats, exist outside of him. Tell people what you would do with the power that Trump is wielding, and then convince us to give that power to you. Exist outside of him. Tell people
wait.
I really hope the Democrats figure out a way to contain this guy. The question is probably not, how dare he, though? The question should be, what are you learning from this? How would you use this power? What's your contract with America? Democrats, exist outside of him. Tell people what you would do with the power that Trump is wielding, and then convince us to give that power to you as soon as possible.
The social contract in America and also our institutions are being torn apart. And yeah, Jon Stewart hit it on the head. We need to rebuild what it means to fight for this system. How can we make this system justify itself, not in terms of what it used to be, but what it can be, what we can fight for. We need to be the anti-corruption party. We need to go hard in that direction. The oligarchs are taking over. And if we are not going to fight for that in a very real way, we are going to lose democracy in America. We are going to live in a situation where we need to be all just working as economic units until we die. We have no other aspirations. That'll be like if you insult the government, they're gonna throw you off a roof like they do in Russia. But yeah, we have to do this now. And any Democrat who's not effective needs to be thrown out of the party. Any Democrat that cannot talk effectively or communicate needs to be thrown out. Hakeem Jeffries should lose his spot right away. I don't care about your institutional connections. I don't care about the goodwill you have with other lawmakers. We don't need lawmakers right now. Lawmakers don't matter. We need cultural setters. We need someone that could set the narratives for what America is moving forward. The founding document for America can still be recovered and reclaimed in a way that focuses on a new vision for what our rights should be moving forward, what our new Bill of Rights should be moving forward. We have a roadmap for this. We have the FDR New Deal, which was essentially a big messaging push to get Americans to move their power over to a philosophy that was more redistributive, more community-based, more building-based, more helping your neighbors-based in general. We need this ideology. We need Democrats to be pushing and fighting for something. Fight for the power. Fight the power that be, you know? I did not forget to take off subzoning, by the way. YouTube just does that on purpose or automatically sometimes, sadly. That's okay though. My big fear is that Democrats are giving up completely and they are just assuming this country is going to go that direction. And they're okay with it because, you know, they have pretty rich friends. They don't feel like fighting against the system because it's too big of a risk. And I mean, I know people that work in different areas. They are, you know, they're not going to give up their livelihood for concepts of a democracy. Hello.
What's going on, brother? Hey, I don't know if you remember me, man, but I talked to you last week. I was the Trump guy that called in. We had a decent, you know, educated conversation.
Yeah, man, I love decent, educated conversations. You know me.
Yeah, totally. You know, so hey, I was just calling back in because I was thinking again, just scrolling through, you popped up again. I want to kind of ask you just a broad, general question. And I know it's going to sound outlandish, but if anything, what could President Trump do that would not make you, become a Trumper, but what would make you at least give a little bit of props to him, or at least, you know, think about him in somewhat of a positive, you know, light? What could he do now? Not what he says. Let's ignore all what he says, whether that's in my favor or your favor. Ignore all that. What could he do that would give you some kind of comfort?
Okay, so Donald Trump is currently starting trade wars with all of our allies. He's leaving international organizations, giving power to China, because China is sweeping in and taking all the influence we had, all our soft power. China is taking trade relations from us because we're having just random tariffs with countries such as even Taiwan. Trump is currently bypassing the checks and balances of the Constitution to unilaterally shut down all federal funding because he just said, I feel like it. And we're having a constitutional crisis every single day. I don't know what Trump can possibly do other than just like roll over and not do anything. If Trump did not do anything, I'd be giving him credit. But I don't know. There's not one policy he has or proposal that even suggests that he's going to do something positive for the American people, for working people at all, for grocery prices. He wants to get rid of the National Labor Board. He wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So like there is nothing positive I could see. He wants to cut taxes for mainly the ultra wealthy, by far geared towards the ultra wealthy. He wants to cut all mechanisms we have for trust busting. He wants to do anti-trust busting. Like he does not want to do any trust busting at all. He wants to remove government watchdogs randomly. Like there's nothing I could say. If you can tell me one policy that you think can have a positive outcome, I can answer your question. But everything he wants to do, I'm just hoping he doesn't do it because it's so bad. He wants to cut Medicare, Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. He wants to cut the VA. Like he wants to do all this stuff. I don't know what I can say.
And listen, I totally agree. And listen, I'll be the first one to say that, some of the things he says and the way he says it and the outlandish things are far-fetched. And I know you have a lot of responsibility as the president of the United States, but we're just talking not what could happen, what he says is going to happen, or what, the analysts think are going to happen with tariffs in the economy. I guess the things that have happened and the actions that have been taken, and again, I hate to focus in and zero in on the border. And I understand that. I remember last week you mentioned that the cost of deportation was going to cost the taxpayers a fortune. And that would be fine and dandy if we were seeing it now. I think it would be a great point to say, yeah, look at how bad it is. But I feel like a lot of it is like this on the horizon stuff. And I'm not trying to deny something if the data's there. But I mean, so far, the actual physical changes that you see, I don't see them being as red flag as what could potentially happen, if that makes sense.
Well, it's easy to, we don't understand what it looks like when we do this kind of thing. Like when we just take apart the federal government, we kind of take it for granted. We're going to see the effects, but it depends on how we see it and when, of a completely dysfunctional federal gov. But just in general, Trump is spending like $800,000 per flight. Trump is on pace to spend like $11 billion per million deportations. So like it's a very expensive program. And someone just said in chat that Trump won something with Colombia because he made them accept immigrants. Okay, so during Joe Biden's presidency, Colombia received 475 flights. Okay, they received 475 flights from the U.S. under Biden, regular passenger flights. The Colombian president said, "I do not want to accept our citizens back in military jets," and Trump got mad about that because he's sending military jets, which are much more expensive too. They're more expensive, but the Colombian president, okay, got what they wanted. Colombia said, "Do not bring people in military jets. We want them to return with dignity." And Trump said, "I'm going to do tariffs." Then Colombia said, "We're going to do tariffs." And then Trump said, "Fine, we'll do regular planes." So in that negotiation, if anything, the Colombia president won that negotiation. They got what they wanted, but Trump still claimed it as an optics win. And when you have a leader who's so willing to distort basic truth in a situation like that, what else are they going to lie to you about? What else are they going to fabricate? Right. Trump claims wins even in situations that he did literally nothing. That situation he lost. He got strong-armed. Trump got strong-armed in that situation. But somehow people in chat are saying it's Trump got Colombia to take immigrants. They've been taking flights easily from the U.S. during Biden's administration. More flights. All it took was a phone call. But Trump is a pathetic little, he's not a leader. He's a little baby hand.
Right. Yeah. No. And
Big R. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Big R. Jon Stewart is wrong here. We shouldn't have Trump envy. I don't want a Democrat to run over the Constitution the way Trump is. Well, we need someone who's going to be picking up influence and wielding it. That's going to protect the Constitution. You need to fight for the Constitution in a strong way. They don't need to go populist, by the way. They don't need to go anti-institution or anti-democratic or anti-checks and balances. They can be pro-Constitution and fight for that in a way that's popular, in a way that's still aggressive. By the way, if you're watching, please drop a like on the stream. Drop a like on the stream. It helps a lot. I only have 12 likes on the stream. You have 300 viewers. Drop a like. Yeah. But
so real quick, do you care more personally, not for the greater good or what you think a potential outcome is? Do you prefer to have a president that I'm going to put it bluntly, has better words and not so good action, rather than actual action is somewhat momentum, but the words are outlandish? Like if you had to choose one, I know those are two absolutes, but if you had to choose between someone that speaks really well and is a great speaker, but the numbers and the way things are going aren't physically okay, or would you rather have somebody that's says stuff and he looks like an ass, he looks like a dumbass, but things are better in this country? And I know things, again, is a broad way to phrase it, but what would you prefer? And I know you'd prefer both, everyone would, but if you had to choose, what would you choose?
George Bush makes Donald Trump look like a scholar. No.
Right.
I mean,
And
Donald Trump
feel
makes George
you
Bush
got
look like a skull. Like, no, but the issue is Trump's policies are literally George Bush on steroids, worse than George Bush. His actual governmental policies are no different from any Republican before him. He is typical Republican. He speaks better than them because he speaks in a way that the people think he's popular. The people think he's on their side somehow. The people think that he vibes with them. So Trump is probably more dangerous because he is able to speak so effectively. He's a great speaker. He's good at it. That's his most powerful tool. In fact, like he's a great, he's good at making people pissed off, and that's how he gets power. So I mean, like if you want to talk about good policy, he has not done one good policy. There's not one policy he did that's good. You could try to name them. There's not one policy he did that's a good policy. He doesn't even have an idea for economics or for healthcare. Like he doesn't even like have one to argue with. But
and that may be true, but do you feel as the last 4 years under Joe Biden, do you feel like that was what you were looking for? Because again, I know we're speaking two different languages here because obviously you voted one way.
It's actually kind of funny. It's actually hilarious because the question you just presented to me.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is the one that speaks good and passes terrible policy, and Biden is the opposite because Biden got real policies done, historic policies, many more than Trump did. Trump got no policies done. Biden got the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Trump never was able to do that. Biden got the manufacturing spending with chips and science, spurring American jobs there. We got the Inflation Reduction Act, which spurred American innovation for solar, wind, and a few other industries. And we got all these policies passed under Biden. Like Biden's the person that could not advocate for himself. He's the person that could not talk.
Right. But let me say this. All of that, and again, I'm just going to be completely transparent with you. I'm not going to make myself seem smarter than I am. All that stuff you listed seems like important things. To be honest, I don't know what a lot of them are. I'll do my research after this call, but just I'm an average guy. I'm 30 years old. I have a small family. I live in California, outside Sacramento. All that stuff sounds like good stuff, but like the things that I see and interact with every day, employment, homelessness, which by the way, I know is a state issue and even down to a county and city issue. But illegal immigration. And again, I'm not trying to sound like a bigot and say I don't like people that aren't white Americans, but I saw that there was an influx of undocumented people here, and
the big issue here is that like Obama deported more people than Trump did and a higher percentage. So did Biden. Yeah. So like you're being convinced to view the world in a certain way. Trump is literally saying that the Gilded Age in the 1890s were the richest time in American history, the most prosperous time for Americans. It was the complete opposite. Trump is able to sell this version of reality, and that skews the way you look at things around you, because things did not get better under Trump. All the things you're talking about did not improve under Trump. The numbers did not get better under Trump, and all the things you just said, they got worse under Trump's administration. So I think Trump is able to gaslight people into thinking that his presidency was all amazing, because he's really good at it. He lies nonstop. He's able to just like seize on your emotions. It's just kind of what he does. He's the best of all time. He's the GOAT when it comes to that. You're right. You don't see policies. It's hard to see that stuff. These are long-term plans. These are long-term plans to build a real foundation. So it's going to take a while for them to actually like be felt, but they are real plans. It's not just like being mad and screaming at people. And yeah.
So just to be clear though, from what you just said, you were talking about during Trump's presidency, which I imagine you're referring to the last presidency. You're saying that the amount of illegal immigrants and the daily amount of migrants that were coming into this country was better under Joe Biden than it was with Trump?
It was better under Obama. Obama was at lower numbers, and Obama was at lower national debt. But like Trump said, he went off the border. How did he went off the border if the border was better under Obama? Like it makes no sense, because Republicans politicize certain things. If they want to politicize something, it becomes the number one topic because they do so relentlessly. So if they want to put cameras on it and talk about it, then people are going to care about it.
And I agree. And listen, and here's a little twist for you. I voted for Barack Obama, not once, but twice.
I know a lot of people that Obama almost won Iowa. He almost won. No, he did win Iowa, right? He almost won Kansas.
Yeah, listen, Obama was just, listen, and I still don't have I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that voted for Trump that hate Obama and have a laundry list of things. I don't. And to be honest, the first term of Trump, it was a vote for Trump, but I didn't have a lot of knowledge. it was only when, and again, I don't know if it's a perception thing. You could be totally right. I could be being brainwashed by the right.
It's not brainwash. It's human emotions. Like our brains work in different ways. Like when someone just says anger and fearful stuff all the time, it does make you kind of view it in like a more pessimistic way.
But here's what I want to make a point of is I'm not a news guy. I'm just not. I mean, you could tell I'm not well versed in this stuff at all. I'm scrolling through YouTube. That's why I'm calling.
How do we fix that issue? How do you? That's a good question, because Donald Trump won this election purely off of people that are like you, that don't watch much news, and he seems very confident. He seems like he has a plan. He might not, but that doesn't matter because when you watch him, he seems confident. So people are like, "Hey, yeah, I trust him to try it." And that's real quick. So how can we message to you? How can we message to you in a way that would work?
Right. No, but here's what I'm saying is Trump wasn't the thing that reached out to me. It was the Biden and Harris administration that was having me get involved. I was so out of politics. Believe me, I was so out of politics. Even with Trump, I didn't care. Those 4 years were just a blur. And then, my life stayed the same, but Joe Biden got in office. And news aside, I don't watch news. If I see something political, I usually scroll right past it. But I notice the world around me, not for my friends. I don't really have a lot of friends.
What happened exactly that made you get involved?
Well, okay. So what I saw personally, and this is the only reason I keep bringing up this thing about Trump is I saw a large influx in undocumented. I was in an automobile accident, actually, by an undocumented, which I know is not concrete evidence of, the world ending, for God's sakes. But
I mean, car crashes are at an all-time high right now. I mean, are you basing this? Are you just admitting that you were kind of emotionally captured by that event? And I'm sorry that happened, but still, are you just kind of like radicalized by that event?
No, not at all. No, this was something that happened, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing, and it became more and more popular to where, getting involved with, I have a daughter, and with her school, there was they actually had emails and meeting notifications saying if you want to attend, and we never attended, but basically saying, hey, there's going to be an influx of migrants coming in. Here's how the school is going to change. And it got very understaffed, and it ended up, again, no prejudice here, no, sound the alarm.
Hey, you trying to say that sounds worse, okay? If you say things that sound like you have a prejudice, then I would tell you, but you have not said anything, okay? You are just going through what your thoughts are.
Right.
You stopping to say, by the way, I'm not racist, but that makes it sound worse.
I know,
just keep going.
But listen,
just keep talking.
I know, but people on the internet, in the chat, how they are.
They don't care. I have a good audience. They don't care. They're not the same people that you're told to be scared of on social media. They're really chill.
Yeah. No, I know, and it's also for you too, because I'm just trying to say that I don't go on.
I want to know what problems you were seeing, because a lot of times people will just like relocate. It won't be because of a migrant crisis or whatever, and a lot of times it'll just be like hardworking people moving in. So like, there's no area in America, for example, that we saw an influx of immigrants where the crime rate went up. In fact, they went down, because immigrants create crime at a much lower level because they want to be citizens. They come here with their families. They don't want to be separated. They don't want to be deported. They come here to stay here. They want to work. They want to, the vast majority. That's why immigrants have a lower crime rate than naturally born American citizens. And for every horror story you can bring up about immigration, it makes no sense, because if we want to pass laws to make America safer, we should focus on our driving regulations. That's why insurance is so high, because people text and drive so much. Driving regulations. People think for example, the New York City subway is the most dangerous place on earth. It's like 10 times more safe to ride the subway than it is to drive. People's emotions, are flaring up in really weird places. We need to focus on making all of America safer if that's our goal. And immigrants do not make America less safe. And if you think they do, and I'm not saying you do, but for the chat, if you think immigrants make America less safe, you're probably just told to think that. And I know people, I've seen many posts already about Trump pardoned this sexual predator that used to, be like this to kids. And then it's like Trump literally pardoned a January 6th rioter who is a convicted, child predator. It's not consistent at all. You want to make America safer, but you pardon people that beat the shit out of 140 cops and killed a few of them. It's it makes no sense. It makes no logical consistency. You don't care about being more safe. It's just that, the groups that you're targeting. And largely that can be dictated by the media and who can effectively message on those points. And Democrats never respond to these messages because they're too scared to, like, I don't know. They're too scared because they know they're hard messages. They're really hard messages to advocate for, you know?
So what? So how do you feel? And I have an opinion about it, and it ain't good, because I remember the pardons that Biden was doing, not like those, you know, premeditated, preemptive, whatever you call it, pardons. When that was coming out, I was like, oh my gosh, that just screams corruption, this, that, and this. And then all of a sudden, my boy that I voted for starts doing it, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch! It's everywhere, dude. It's everywhere.
But like for politics, it's really hard because if you want to be an engaged voter, many people listen to podcasts and think they're engaged, or we vote off vibes. So like a lot of presidents, and I usually use like Jimmy Carter as an example. There's a few others, but you know, they vote for, if people are happy, they don't really give credit to the person in office. They'll just like keep them. But if they're mad, they're going to vote that person out of office. Like Biden, people don't even know what happened globally to cause inflation or immigration to be higher. It was all COVID. Biden did not cause that. Biden led us to the quickest recovery ever from a recession, basically. The best inflationary recovery off inflation from the pandemic. We were number one globally in the world. Our economy was number one. And Biden got shit on for it, consistently. No one ever gave Biden any credit for that. Biden left office as the least popular president in American history. When it comes to policies, Biden did 50 times more to the economy than Trump did to make it better. Trump rode the wave that was already presented there for him. So like, how do we message to you though?
A guy like me. What does that mean
exactly.
to a guy like me?
Exactly. I don't know. See, that's the issue too, is when, like I said before, when government is done correctly, you don't feel it, you know? So like if Trump messes stuff up, you're not going to feel it right away, but it's going to be felt. When we become destabilized, we're talking about invading allies and a bunch of other shit. When he decides to invade Mexico or something, things are going to get weird. In a way that we have not experienced in our lifetimes, especially if you're like 30 or 40, because we missed a lot of the Cold War and the Red Scare kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to get weird. If Democrats get in office and manage the government and we have clean air, clean water, clean food, we take that for granted in America. Other countries don't have that same privilege. So like we're used to having things on a silver platter for us. Even the poorest among us live pretty good in comparison to a lot of countries around the world. So like things Democrats do, they don't message on. They don't get benefit from it. Republicans will use Biden's infrastructure bill to rebuild their state after voting against it and take political credit for it. So Democrats are just not ruthless enough politically. And I don't know how the issues Republicans vote on, they can make it very personalized. So like your girl in school is going to be ran over by a trans man that's going to have a big shoulder and kill her. And then the illegal alien is going to jump from the top rope and body slam her. And then like, yeah, be scared, be very afraid. And it's like, it's not really like, we should not be that militant towards our neighbors. We could have these conversations in a way that's not just trying to scare people, you know? I mean,
No, and yeah, I completely agree. I don't think fear mongering is the right way to do it either, man. I'm just listen. We're all just in a back seat taking a ride to this whole thing, and it's either going to be good, and again, I'll probably see you scrolling through again, and we can talk about it more in the future, or it's going to be bad. And guess what? I'll still call you, and you can say, look, you know, either way. We're going along for the ride.
Yeah, that's the media bubbles are hard too, because I mean, every podcast, or like most of them, so like Theo Von, Joe Rogan. I like Theo Von. Theo Von's actually funny. I think Joe Rogan is one of the least funny people of all time, but Theo Von's actually funny. Shane Gillis is funny. But a lot of these podcasts, most of them that are non-political, or like Andrew Schultz, I don't like him either. But naming some popular podcasts, they have like a right-wing leaning to them, all of them. Like they kind of supported Trump, or they explicitly did, like Rogan and Theo Von was at the inauguration, but the Paul brothers were there, a bunch of other creators, all the podcasters. So if you watch these podcasts like casually, they were kind of leaning people in that direction, talking up Trump, and the left does not have that. We don't have that same thing. We just have political commentators. It's not cool to be advocating for like equal rights, for example. It's not cool to, you know, the liberal, and I think Democratic leadership is dumb too. But just in general, you know, there's not that media space being occupied.
Equal rights for who?
For
equal rights.
Yeah, so for example, like Trump rolled back executive orders from the Civil Rights Act already from LBJ. The one that protected federal contractors from workplace discrimination on the basis of race, sex, gender, religion.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah, he repealed that. So he said it was on the basis of removing DEI, and then you start thinking, well, DEI, interesting. So if you consider the Civil Rights Act DEI, which they do, I just want okay. Trump supporters need to understand when they say DEI, they also include MLK. They include the Civil Rights Movement. You have to understand that. They include any law that was against redlining. They include any law that forced like black people into schools with white people.
Right.
They include that as DEI. So they want to roll that back. They would if they could.
So educate me a little bit. As far as I know, isn't DEI like, hey, we have 10 candidates and you have, it's for like a security position. Again, I'm just for semantics here. It's for a security position. You have to have this experience in military, blah, 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 blah. And it's like 9, 40-year-old males who are like Army Rangers or something. And then some like 22-year-old, Islamic woman with, a burqa on, and she gets picked just for that reason. I mean, I don't see, but like, how would removing that, like, all of a sudden, are you saying that like black people won't be able to get jobs, like to that extent of removing civil rights?
So we saw forever, even in modern times, very recently, and the Civil Rights Act was not that far ago, but we saw that white people were getting jobs when they were not qualified, and that black people were overqualified, and a black person had to be overqualified to get the same job as a white person. There'd be 2 equal resumes, and the white person would be chosen every time. So DEI aimed to remove discrimination. It was not to be discriminatory against white people. It was to be, okay, we're going to ban discriminating against other cultures. There are organizations, by the way, who probably go, really hard on that. But I would say that those organizations have done it. There's been much more organizations that have done it in the wrong way for much longer. So, for example, like Lloyd Austin is 50 million times more qualified than Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. Lloyd Austin was Biden's Secretary of Defense, 50 million times more qualified than Hegseth. Hegseth is a white man. Lloyd Austin is a black man. But somehow Hegseth is never called a DEI hire. But now if someone sees a black pilot, they say, oh, that person's only here because they're black. They might not know how to fly. That's not happening. And the biggest issue, by the way, with hiring unfairly is legacy and also wealth. Tucker Carlson's son is working on J.D. Vance's team in the White House. Like Tucker Carlson's son. The biggest issue in America is meritocracy being killed by rich people. It's not like we're not giving preferential treatment to black people in America. We're still not, by the way. Like they said the DEI firefighting force in LA was hurting the response because they had too many lesbians. That was a big thing on right-wing media. They literally are like 3% women for the department. They're 3% women, and they still blamed lesbians on the California, or they blamed the California fires on lesbians. So like that's an example, by the way, of the right using a policy that the left does not explain well. The left does not explain these topics well, and it's not easy. Like I said before, it's easier to argue against something in an angry way and a fearmonger about it than it is to build it up and really provide and justify why it does exist. The same way with government programs. It's hard to justify why this government program gets all this funding. It's easy to say, tear it apart, give it back to the people. It's easy. Right. It's a more emotionally appealing answer. It doesn't go into the critical thought or the difficult conversations of how to actually resolve it. So people are like, okay, put Trump in there. He'll fix it. Because people just don't know. So I mean, like DEI is a good thing. But now you can't even say that word, or you're gonna get arrested now because they have their Gestapo out.
So let me tell you this, and this is just from a personal perspective. I would not even bat an eye if they purposely, and by they I mean whatever government's in power, if they purposely made 50% of all government, administration work a specifically minority hire just for that reason. The problem that it starts to face is when you have clear definitions. I mean, come on. You mentioned firefighters in LA. I think of the Secret Service, woman, the famous, she couldn't holster her weapon. I think of a lot
that was a really dumb controversy.
No, I know. Let's not go too.
If a man did that, he would not have been flamed for it. Because men do that all the time.
But let's be honest here. Let's look at, and I know what video you're talking about with the LA firefighter lady, that was talking about like, well, if your husband can't carry himself out, that's his problem. That's fine. But when you get into these positions that
it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't imagine a woman ever being more qualified than the majority of the candidates that are for these jobs. Firefighters, Secret Service detail, FBI.
Well, you'd have to imagine, right? If 3% of firefighters are women, they probably don't do the jobs that are going to be focused on just their physical strength, right?
But I don't think you get to choose if you're an on-call firefighter at the station house.
But there's other jobs that do. Like, not everyone's assigned to go into the burning building
I know,
with
but
full gear on to carry people out.
I know. No, but not every job's also gonna have someone's life at stake. And the only problem I have is when it has to do with life and death of other people.
But it's 3%, so they're doing other jobs. If there was a job that required like lifting this much or being able to carry this much, then they'd obviously have standards for that. Like, you'd have to actually just like think about it for a second. Do you really think they're putting people in emergency first responder positions that cannot do the job for the basis of DEI? Do you really think that's a reasonable thing that people people are doing? Because in order to believe that, you'd have to believe that you'd have to believe the worst framing about people in the world driven by the right.
But I think, but no. But I think it comes. I think they lower the standard a little bit. Again,
they don't though. You're saying the propaganda for it, and they lower the standard for legacy hires. Like I said, if a rich guy has a kid, he's gonna get him opportunities. That's the big affirmative action DEI in society that needs to be fixed. Is classism. Because the other things are we never gave black people reparations after slavery. A lot of the black issues today with violence and poverty is still resulting from slavery, for example. So like we tried to adjust different things in society like affirmative action and DEI to make up for systemic issues that America was unwilling to fix, even though America profited greatly off of slavery. We paid, to the Japanese after the internment camps. We never did anything at all for black Americans. So like these are people trying to make it better. And like affirmative action, for example, made admissions more fair, because what it did not do quotas, but it took into account, for example, if you are a black kid growing up in a ghetto, for the common understanding, and you're able to work through high school and, get a 1400 SAT score, that 1400 SAT score, taking everything into account, is going to be better than a rich suburbanite who has $20,000 in SAT tutoring who cracks a 1450. So like in that scenario, I would probably argue that the person who goes through all these issues, especially when they result from systemic history in America, that person who made it through actual like being in poverty fought to have the chance to get a 1400 in the SAT. I think that's a million times more impressive than someone who had a really cushy background and who got pampered with tutoring, because that's a lot of people in high positions, a lot of consulting, a lot of finance, pretty much everyone in Donald Trump himself. Right. That's literally Donald Trump. Donald Trump got into UPenn because his dad paid his way in, and no one ever complains about that. But we want to shit on black people all the time. Like we want to shit on immigrants, but we never shit on. Why can't we shit on rich people more? Like we got to do that more. Like yeah.
No, yeah, we should. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, let's shit on rich people more. Yeah.
No, I do, and what do you have to say to, you mentioned the SAT scores. How do you feel about like the black man that succeeded and got out of it? Do you feel like, he, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of head patting and saying, no, you need the government to step in and save you from this black man because you're against all odds. Don't you think that some people some black people would say that, hey, I'm just the same as everybody else, and I got here, and I don't need any help. I wasn't at any other odds than some of the other guys, because there's black neighborhoods back in the 80s in Compton, and some of them were dead by the 90s, and some of them are practicing law, or are professors at USC now, and they came from the same neighborhood. And I feel like those ones that went on to do great things would kind of feel like it's a head pat a little bit, saying, well,
I would push back against that thinking in general. If I'm from a poor community in general, from any, race or background, that I'd be like, well, there's people that do that. For example, you can be an immigrant and hate immigrants. You could be a poor white guy who gets rich and you hate poor white people. Just like JD Vance and Purdue Pharma that did the opioid epidemic. I'm not saying JD Vance did that, but the Purdue Pharma that did the opioid epidemic, there are a lot of people that were probably born in these cultures that now hate hillbillies or whatever they called them. in the private messages when they were killing them. So like there is a thing where you could just be mad at the community you came from, a lot of self-hatred. But in general, I look at facts and logic. I look at across society. There was never a law in American history that made a white person less than human. There has been laws on most of our history, by far most of our history, that said black people were less than human in America. And those laws are the main reason why black people have a crime rate that's like 10 times higher than white people, and why the poverty rate is so bad for black people. So when I think about those issues, for that one person you could bring up, because you could bring up, I don't know, one of Donald Trump's urban and housing people, which is actual DEI, because he always has like one black guy in his administration, and it's always for urban housing.
Well, you gotta have one
for HUD. Yeah, exactly. That's literally what they like. Yeah, that's what they do. It's crazy. It's always HUD. It's always only HUD. No, it's always HUD though. They don't like. That's not meritocracy. Like I said before, Trump's nominees are the most like baby pampered, guaranteed from birth to be successful people of all time. Like they're not qualified at all for these positions. Like RFK is not qualified. Tulsi's not. Dude, Tulsi, RFK, Pete Hegseth, all these dumbasses, Kash Patel are some of the least qualified people. And Kash Patel, but he counts. But like they're the least qualified people to ever be put up for these positions, and no one's saying this about them. It's just like who you decide to put this anger towards, because the world is a mix of a bunch of different influences. But like I said before, what you prioritize as a main way to make your community better and to make your society better, what you prioritize says a lot about you and says a lot about what you're actually going to do. So if you convince people to be mad at immigrants, to be mad at black people, to be mad at DEI and wokeism, like the way they talk about wokeism, you could replace wokeism with a Jewish ideology, and it'll sound like Hillary saying it. Like the deep state wokeism is corrupting our institutions. Like shut up, dude. Talk about the actual issues facing people. Like I can't stand hearing that nonsense about like there's obviously influences in society, but like the fact that we're not focusing on punching up at the powerful that own media companies, that convince us to hate our neighbors, that convince us to believe in these versions of each other that ruin our conversations. The fact we don't come together to rise up against these big tech oligarchs that want us to live under a surveillance state with 24/7 facial recognition technology tracking our every move. The fact we're not coming together on that basis, as working people, as people who are not in that elite class, superseding race, superseding any other issue we can have socially. The fact we're not fighting just for, civil rights and then going after those who have all the power in society is really sad, especially when Trump is getting us to fight over race, to fight over gender constantly. And he is now bringing in Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk into the White House without any restrictions. It's just like, yeah, I don't know.
So okay, you talk about the high elite. I mean, don't you feel like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Anthony Blinken, Janet Yellen? I mean, don't you feel like they were all from the elite or are the elite?
Yeah, but like, there's a difference between like, what did Joe Biden want to do? Like for example, Trump wants to get rid of the National Labor Board. Joe Biden was the most pro National Labor Board president in American history. Trump wants to ban unions. Biden was the most pro-union president in American history. Trump wants to reduce corporate taxes and top 1% taxes even more. Biden wanted to raise corporate taxes to pre-Trump levels, or at least like up a little bit more. Trump wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which cracks down on corporate corruption and protects consumers. Trump wants to remove that. Biden wanted to bolster it. Biden's FTC chair was amazing. Lena Khan, she did amazing as FTC chair. Trump fired her immediately. And she did great getting rid of junk fees from like airports. She passed the regulation where if you cancel like a gym membership, you had to press one button. It couldn't be a bunch of like different buttons to cancel like a subscription service. She passed the one button law as well. And like she was able to do all of this stuff to help American consumers, and Trump fired her instantly. So when we look at the outcomes, that's what really matters. So like money is an influence when Biden's president. It's an influence for sure. But it's not the only influence. There are there's labor influences there. There's civil rights influences. There's public service workers. There's different military influences. There's influences of all kinds. But right now in the Trump White House, the influences are big money and if you love Donald Trump. And I 100%. I don't remember though. I don't want to reform the Democratic Party to be even less big money focused. But when you look at the outcomes of the policies that these administrations do, that's where you see the real values, and that's where the real difference lies with the fundamental things they actually do, not their rhetoric, not what they speak on, but those policies that really, really, really matter in limiting corruption. Democrats are more likely to regulate and break up monopolies too. Trump will not at all. So like when you look at the two administrations, Trump is more pro-elite. Democrats, I'm not saying they're anti-elite. They're definitely pro-elite, but Trump is pro just like, Trump is like, I'm going to ruin the Constitution to give our shit away. Like it's just different levels to it. And Democrats still pass like good policies in general. Like there's some good policies I could see.
If you don't mind me asking, what state are you located in?
Northeast.
Northeast. Okay. I mean, have you been feeling anything or witnessing? Again, let's take media out of it, which I know is hard to do, but taking media out of it during Joe Biden's presidency. Let's start back with Trump. Let's start with Trump's first term, 4 years, Biden, 4 years. Now we're talking here. Did you notice changes in your region, your area that were positive, negative with each presidency?
Donald Trump mishandling COVID really messed up a lot of people I know that died from it, doctors and nurses that had the hospitals overwhelmed. We had one of the worst COVID responses of any nation in the world under Trump. So I saw that happen with COVID. Then with Biden, we kind of came back slowly from it. But I mean, in general, it wouldn't matter. That's the issue, though. Like I focus on messaging in a way that is geared towards people's personal experience, but it doesn't matter what the policies are, obviously, or they would not be voting certain ways. But I mean, as far as direct effects, it's hard. I mean, remember, when we have the lowest gas prices globally, we have the lowest inflation globally. Even if it's still like recovering from the pandemic, Americans are kind of pampered, so it's hard to make them happy. And especially if you're not giving like a narrative for them, it's really difficult. Because Biden did more, like I said before, he did more pro-labor policies than any president since FDR, since Eisenhower, since all those guys. So I mean, I don't know what else you can ask for. Because I'm not going to judge, like, I don't know. I always bring up the example of if I'm in a burning building. I'm not going to blame the firefighters for putting fire out. I'd blame the arsonist who set the building on fire. But if there's no one that put a building on fire, then I just, like, judge someone by their job. And, if a firefighter is able to extinguish the flames on a house, I'm not going to go complain, like, dude, the house is burnt down a little bit. You didn't do it fast enough. It's like, no, the person still did a good job, though. But we never give that, that nuance to anyone else when it comes to political stuff. So I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's funny you said you'd blame the arsonist and not the firefighter, but you wouldn't blame the arsonist if they suffered through racial injustice, because then it wouldn't be the arsonist's fault. It's the fault of the society that drove the arsonist to commit crimes, right?
Wait, for what crime? Wait, no. It would not be... From a criminological perspective, okay, if you are poor in terrible conditions, you're going to commit more crimes. Same with white communities, okay? Some white communities in rural areas have the highest per capita crime rate, higher than New York, much higher. Some of those dangerous places in the U.S., most dangerous, are going to be white areas and rural parts of America. Alabama, especially Missouri, all those kinds of Oklahoma, they're very dangerous places. We never talk about those, though, in that same way. It's complicated. It's complicated when you talk about actual crime.
I know.
Because obviously you're putting people in a position where you can't survive. If you are right now in a position where you cannot feed your family, okay, you're put into a shitty house in the middle of a city that has been redlined into oblivion. Your only possible job is making $10 an hour in a broken down McDonald's that gets robbed 50 times a day. There's no other jobs at all or support. The moment you do get support, people call it DEI and wokeism and affirmative action if you're successful. If you're not successful, then you're doomed to have no opportunity. Of course, you're gonna commit more crime or be in positions where the conditions are worse. Like that happens in every poor location. So I mean, I blame people for doing bad things, but I also understand why people are pushed to the limit or they're put into. If you put people in a position to fail, I cannot blame that group of people, especially as a whole. But for society-wise, there's no reason we should feel bad. We should not feel bad or have white guilt. And most liberals agree with that, but the ones that don't, that'll say like, okay, you should have white guilt, those will be the ones that are mainstreamed, of course, because they have the most unfavorable opinions towards the left. So the right wing's gonna put them on a pedestal. But it's just something that exists. we have to recognize that there was slavery, all that stuff that left black people as a whole behind, and that's one reason why the crime rate is so high, why there's so many areas with all this poverty, due to that, and also a bunch of issues with Reconstruction, Jim Crow, redlining, all that kind of shit. So we have to fix those. If we cannot complain. And by the way, that's my only thing. You cannot complain about black crime if you don't care about the actual solutions. And people will talk about it all the time, and you bring up the actual solutions to it. And like, no, we're gonna give handouts. It's like you don't give a shit about anyone then. If you think it's a handout, you are not a Jesus fan if you think it's a handout to give someone like an outlet to be successful. Yeah.
But I remember we were talking before about the guy that ends up becoming a lawyer that was in the same ghetto neighborhood as the lifelong gangster, and I think that when you were explaining this situation about these communities, you were saying, yeah, imagine you grow up in housing, and your only option is to go work here. Again, that goes back to kind of a kick in the knee to those guys that did succeed. So
do you understand why that's stupid though? It's like, wow, I made it out of these terrible conditions. Everyone else needs to face these same conditions. That's just like a loser mentality. If someone has that mentality, it's just stupid, right?
No, I'm not saying that like everyone else needs to go through it too. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like the fact that people have gotten out of that and became more successful than 90% of people I know. I mean, again, I could pull a handful of people that grew up in hard times that are doing better than I do now, that are African American or Hispanic or whatever. But
okay, they met the right person at the right time. I don't know. That happens a lot. Like people from different areas meet someone, they get different opportunities. They might be good at certain things. I mean, there's a whole list of factors that might happen, but that's not going to change the fact that on average, if you're black in America, your chances to get like the same job as white people is going to be a lot lower. Like it's just on average, it's a societal thing, it's cultural, it's economic, it's socioeconomics, it's a lot of complicated variables at play. But being mad at people who are like, I had to suffer through this. I had to have no health care before, and I had to survive disease with no health care. Therefore, no one else should ever have anything good. If we had that standard society in our society, nothing would ever have gotten better in human history. But it has gotten better for those reasons, because we did care about helping those and planting seeds, for trees that we'll never get to experience, or whatever that quote is. But now in America, people don't give a shit anymore. Now we're falling apart.
Just so I don't forget, you mentioned about, getting, and I do agree with the on paper statistic. I do, about how when you go into a job, and, I'm a business owner, small business, by the way, very small.
We realize it's population based, right? So it's like all black people were considered to not be human. So all black people were set behind in the race.
But what I'm saying is that, do you feel as though, and again, I don't argue with the statistic that black people are passed over in employment. I don't argue with that. But do you believe it's because of a systemic underlying manipulative perception that people
have? It's also because they can't take loans out as much. Like black families don't have down payments. They can't just get free cars from their parents. They can't get help with loans. And they get worse loans in general. They don't have any money to fall back on.
I know, but hold on. But first of all, to say that black people can't get free cars from their parents, I mean, anyone can get a free car from their parents.
Okay, but we're talking population-wise. Again, slavery existed, right? And the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 1960s, and we barely had time to recover from that. It takes generations to build generational wealth. So when we're talking about the race of life, you understand at the population level, by that fact, even if Oprah Winfrey exists, that does not say anything else about the entire population of black people in America, or why we would do focus policies. Just like Japanese internment camps or Jewish people after the Holocaust, those are populations affected by the government's policies. The government discriminated against them, held them as less than human in camps. Same with slavery. They never got reparations for that, but Jewish people did, and Japanese people did. Black people should have gotten that. They were promised it. Never got it, and still to this day, it should probably still happen in some regard.
Well, hold on. I just want to go back to this point, because I feel like maybe you were talking about two different things.
And that's why it's called reparations too.
Yeah. And listen, everything that you just said, I'm not going to disagree with. I don't have anything to disagree with anything you just said. But what I'm trying to get across here is, when you talk about that, just specifically with job interview selection, you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but are you saying that the reason why black people get passed over is for no other reason that's happening in real time other than this preconceived notion that people have towards black people due to 200 years ago, or I'm sorry, not
It's a
200.
lot of conflicting variables, though. It's a lot of conflicting variables. So, for example, you don't have generational wealth, you don't have as many connections than on average, or the median person, okay, from certain classes or certain demographics that were discriminated against, won't have as many opportunities to get looks into jobs just by knowing someone. Like most people I know that have good jobs knew someone, or they met someone, or they were friends with someone, or they were friends with someone's dad who can give them a job in a certain area. So not only that, but also if we do a comparative analysis and we have one person's name whose name is Jamal and the other person's name is Courtney, Courtney's going to be picked over Jamal in a majority of applications. Now, Jamal might be picked more, or might be picked sometimes. But if you look at an entire population of people, if there is any bias in a system at all in a certain direction, even if it's 60-40, when you look at millions of people, that's going to have a huge impact on the entire state, especially when black communities were forced to be, like I said, sectioned in the areas based on redlining. And you can go to cities and you can tell when the rich part starts. You can see where the red line was drawn. You could tell exactly where it was in these certain cities. So it's a lot of complicated factors.
But hold on, this doesn't sound like an issue with race. This sounds like just poverty in general.
No, but black people, okay, were considered to be under law less than human. They were slaves, and black people have it worse as a group than other groups in America because other groups in America were not considered, for example, white people were never considered to be slaves. So black people in specific have a unique set of circumstances. And race is also one. It's also one. Just like Trump saying the other day, you can look at someone and tell you could tell when they're a criminal by the way they look. That is what people said. That's what people said when justifying, allegations against black people. Like, oh, they just look like a criminal. We have too many studies on this stuff. Race matters. That's what intersectionality is. Because someone's gender might matter, someone's race might matter, someone's class might matter. So there's a million factors that might influence everyone's decisions that they make. So when we do policy, we should be going off of at least some principle of that.
But I don't, and just to touch on a point you made, I mean, maybe we can find some common ground here. Let's take race out of it in anything. Let's just say you're telling me what somebody's wearing. I don't know their skin color, or it's not going to be a shirt that says I'm black. But let's say we don't know what they are, but the way they walk, maybe you're reading a transcript of the way they talk, so you don't know if they have an accent or not. I feel like yeah, you can know if somebody looks like a criminal. I've seen white dudes before, because again, I have a town that has a lot of meth heads in it, and I see these guys and go, okay, that guy's a tweaker. That guy's.
You realize that the standard for that is so off, because when we look at even like the police pulling over people, like at night they pull over people equally because they can't see what color the person is. So during the day they pull over black people more. At night it's more equal. So like it does matter to a great extent. And the fact that the white person needs to look like, they have tattoos on their face and you're wearing a wife beater and piercings in order to be looking like a criminal, versus a black person just being black. That's the big issue there is racial discrimination based on what the in-group or out-group is.
No, listen.
You're just saying on how they talk or how they walk. Like that's inherent to like someone's culture, like that you're going to be judging at that point.
Oh, how you walk?
Yes, if you want to say how someone talks and how they walk, what do you even like at that point? You have to have so many stereotypes in your head. The fact that you even consider that is like proving yourself wrong, because you're like, when you think about race and class, you're thinking of all these different things. You yourself are proving intersectionality right there, right? You're proving that you believe in intersectionality, because you just said a situation where you just take race out of it. You can also see these factors in a different way. So you could probably, if you think about it enough, you can see how race, class, presentation, culture, all this stuff can be intersectional, come together and make things like when we analyze these things in society, that we have to take everything into account, because you could be like Michael Jordan's son, for example. Michael Jordan's son, well-connected, rich, but they'll still get stopped more by police than a white guy will. On average, they won't ever stop being black. In the same way, you could have a poor white guy suffer from class. You could have a rich person suffer from race and be discriminated on that basis. So it's a lot of really complicated variables together, and that's why I say words like white privilege don't really capture it, because you're saying there's a group that's privileged. It's not really that being the issue. It's the issue that certain groups are underprivileged or have been disprivileged or have been removed from certain aspects of society by the government systemically. and we need to find a way to make that more whole, especially when there's still clear systemic issues rooting from those problems, from the government having policies against these groups that really screwed them over to an extra extent. So like white people are poor too. There's some white people that are poor, but we know a key reason for why the black rates are so high is directly tied to slavery still, and the U.S. government's policy that they never made whole.
Yeah, and listen, I'll be the first one to say that obviously that is a statistic, and it is out there that is a substantially larger amount of African Americans live in poverty per capita, obviously, than white people. But again, it sucks because my whole thing is I don't care what color you are.
You don't see color. I knew you were going to say that. It's uncomfortable for you to talk about it. You're uncomfortable.
I didn't say I don't see color. That's corny.
You just said I don't care what color you are. I mean, you have to care to some extent. Like you have to just know like that person. You literally just said like you know what color someone is, but that doesn't mean you should have any notions off of that. But I'm just saying, like color blindness does not work because you're not taking these factors into account. You can't just pretend they're not real.
But I'm agreeing on the point of it's a class thing. I kind of don't. I understand that race plays a part, but my whole thing is I do not care. Obviously, yeah, I notice if you're a black guy or a white guy, but I don't care. The thing I care about is whether or not you're a criminal or not a criminal. White, black, Mexican, Asian, I don't care what you are, whether you're a Yakuza or a Crip or an Aryan brother. You're all the same if you're a trash criminal. I think criminals should be locked up, gone, seized away, but that's all I care about. I think you should talk. I'm not saying you have to talk like you're a white guy, but you should be able to sit there and have an articulate conversation like we're having now, even if you have an accent. I work with a Filipino designer who barely speaks a lick of English, and he's one of the best guys I've ever met in my life. He's amazing. But
yeah, and that shouldn't be surprising. Only in America is that going to be like a surprising thing we even need to quote.
It's not. No, it's not. I'm not saying it's a surprise. I'm trying to lay down a foundation that, trust me, the only thing that me and a lot of people I know, black, white, and indifferent, care about are you a criminal? Are you stealing, looting, robbing? White? Trust me, breaking into cars. I've had plenty.
I don't even know when we start talking about crime. Like I don't know.
But because I feel like crime is a huge issue.
Like I feel like we would not have brought up crime at all if we didn't bring up like black people and immigrants. Like why do we not talk about white crime? Like it never starts on white people though. Like you have to admit that. Like the crime conversation never starts with like white collar criminals ever, or white people in general. It's always like we talk about immigration or black people. Like we never like.
Oh, and them too, dude. Believe me, I my grandparents, were not. I mean, indirectly, not exactly his firm, but we're investing in Bernard Madoff's scheme, and they lost a large amount of money. And again, white-collar criminals, Jordan Belfort, scumbag, pump and dump, scumbag. I agree. I don't feel those all that much because I don't invest my money in Wall Street. I don't involve with those sleazeballs. But regardless, but what I deal with is I have a work truck parked in front of my house, and who's going to break into it? It's usually the homeless dudes walking by, and it's a common thing in our area that they'll come by, break your window, pop your lock, screwdriver your utility beds, and they'll take your stuff. That's what I.
Yeah, but you could separate all of these issues. Like you don't need to be like, well, I mean, it's all class. It's not all class. It's just all complicated. It's all complicated, and there's different theories on how to make things better. But the way we do it right now is just making things worse. Because if you see someone commit a crime, you probably want to care about the root cause of that crime. So I, for example, would say being in poverty and having no resources causes more crime, or having unsafe communities creates more crime. Having desperation creates more crime. Having more mental health issues and no access to care creates more crime. How do we fix that? How do we get people, integrated into society correctly? And also, if someone commits a crime, how do we take care of that person as well, and also the people who are affected by it? And in general.
Do you agree that creating reasons for the crime and having people be able to justify what
you're
they're
not
doing?
Justifying the crime, you're understanding someone's mental psychology into what led them to be in a position to commit the crime.
Man. No, not us. I'm talking about the person doing it.
No,
Says,
no,
well,
I
yeah,
understand that. We should be understanding everyone. Like, if
Oh,
you're in a really dire position, that's what I'm saying. We should understand what systemic issues led to that crime because we need to understand that person to prevent more crime. It doesn't prevent more crime to arrest more people. It usually prevents crime to, like, fund education more, for example. Funding education per dollar, like, saves money for law enforcement because less people commit crimes if they're able to access education and healthcare. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, we should be understanding of people. People are not always in full control of their actions. They're just not. Not to say people should not have personal responsibility. That is true, but also, like I said, there are conditions in the world that can make crime more likely, and we should seek to make those issues better. And I'm not going to blame someone for like I said, being born into poverty, being abused, and then doing things that are against the law because we don't focus on resolving the issues that cause that crime.
and I agree. We need to focus on the resolving because I feel like it was brought to light. It was talked about. Here's why people are committing crime. Here's why people are in poverty. Here's why. Here's why. Here's why. But nothing was done to change it. So people just had this why and kept it in their back pocket. And while they were committing crime, the first thing they say from the back of the cop car is, yeah, I'm this way because of this, this, and this. Because it was pushed out so much that, yeah, this is the reason it is. This is the okay. Well, what do we do? I mean, do we give every person that's not white $100,000? What can we do now?
Well, no. Any solutions we talk about are laughed at and ridiculed and called socialist and Marxist. So, like, healthcare expansion, education expansion, more social workers, helping just have job opportunities in areas. Even that kind of stuff is laughed at. So we can't even talk about in America now racism being a thing. If you even say racism is real, you get kicked out of the White House and the federal government now because of the authoritarian Trump policies. So like we're not even at that position. So now these issues are going to keep getting worse, by the way, because of Trump. And we're just in an even worse position. We're going to keep getting worse. Our conversations are going to get even worse. Like we're just going the wrong direction. I appreciate you for calling in, but
Yeah.
gotta go to bed. But you can call in again. But the issues, like, there's a lot of issues in this. It's very, very complicated, very complex. And like, for example, you can have your best friend. You can have like Donald Trump can be best friends with Snoop Dogg, but that does not change the fact that his father was arrested at a KKK rally, and he had discriminatory practices against black people. So, for example, like, some black people might get rich and then care more about lower taxes than they care about racist policies because they no longer have to confront the realities of living in they become disconnected from the community that they came from because they're now rich people. They're billionaires. Why would they care? They're millionaires. They get a private jet anywhere. Do they care about the plight of where they came from? No, they probably look down on people from where they came from. So I mean, you could do that. You could have, the world's just, it's very complicated.
It is. But hey, I appreciate talking to you, man. Seriously, it's always good talking to you're very educated in this, and like I said, man,
I appreciate you calling in again.
Yeah, man.
Stick
like
around.
I said, we'll talk soon, and I'll subscribe, and we'll talk soon.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you for calling in. I hope to talk to you again as this Trump administration gets more fun.
Yeah, we'll see. We're either going to be in a bunker or have good things, but we'll find out, huh?
Yeah, as long as we keep our constitution. If we keep our constitution, that's my highest. That's my highest expectations now. But yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, later, brother.
The median voter is the greatest weight you can carry in society. Talking to median voters. Thank you for the super chat. I did incorporate your super chats into the conversation. I brought up the paradox of intolerance, kind of in a secondhand way, and also restorative justice. Thank you for the super chats and also for the $5. Now that super chat though, I did receive a super chat that says, "My boyfriend voted for Trump. And in quotes, I voted for him because Kamala doesn't have my whiteness in her interest." That sounds like, it sounds like neo-Nazi propaganda. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of wild. That is a wild. If your boyfriend voted for Trump because Kamala does not have the whiteness in mind. I don't know. Sliver's still here. Sliver, is that like real? Is that the actual reason that your boyfriend said? You were shocked. Well, you... Okay. Huh. So this graph right here is spread a lot on Twitter and wherever else for propaganda against liberals. And I guess it talks about how close your ring is, and conservatives say they have a tighter like center ring. So like number 1 will be all of your immediate family, and then number 16, the outer circle, will be all things in existence. And conservatives score more in the middle, and they say that's a good thing. But then liberals score more on the outside. Conservatives think it's better to be in the middle, probably because they think it's a bullseye. But also, I guess having immediate family and just your closest friends. But it really means your perspective and the way you view the world is based off more what's in your immediate proximity, what affects you. You don't see many worldly things. You don't see the rest of the world as a concern. You only see you and your inner circle as the only concerns in the world. Meanwhile, liberals still believe in, the number 1, but they encompass every part of this. So if you are a part of an outside circle, you also encompass the middle circle as well. You don't just like care about all things in existence and then not care about your family. You care about all of it. So if you're a conservative in the very middle, if you're a number 1, then you literally only care about all your immediate family and yourself. But conservatives use that to brag because they don't understand the study or the graph. So conservatives, liberals have the ability to look outside themselves and care about the entire world and every human being. But conservatives, you cut off, like on average, you cut off a lot of human beings that they care about. So it makes sense that a more centered, self-centered, narcissistic leader will appeal to conservatives more. Meanwhile, a more welcoming leader that views things more, I guess, worldly or secular, would appeal more to liberals. It makes a lot of sense there. But conservatives misread this study all the time and say that their graph is better. Kind of crazy, but it just shows what we already know about limited worldviews and being stuck in a bubble and never seeing much experience in life, and liberals do typically have that. And if you experience more, the more you experience in life, the more you open up these circles, the more likely you are to become more liberal. And the less you experience life, the more likely you are to stay conservative. That's why if you bring a conservative into a diverse environment, they typically become more liberal after that. They become more liberal after that experience, typically. And of course, it's all stats and averages, but it is funny how the right wing completely gets this study wrong. Their try at science, maybe. It's kind of crazy. Thank you, Sprig, and also, I think I saw Cam in there earlier. Fighting the good fight, 16, bronze collar. Yeah, someone said, well, like I voted Trump. If someone says like, that's funny though, because he said, that one guy said, I don't care what color you are, and I said like, saying I don't see color doesn't work, and he's like, I'm not saying I don't see color. That's just another way to say that, right? Because he's saying I see color but I don't care, is what he said, right? He's not acting like he doesn't see color. He sees it but he doesn't care. He doesn't think there's any like actual difference between like how different people would experience the world from different like races or whatever. So that's still color blindness, but it's like, it's active color blindness. You're like admitting your color blindness and not doing anything to fix it. You're okay with it. You think it's the right way to view things, actually. Right? Yeah, so he does see it. He's not going to pretend like he doesn't, but he owns it. He's like, well, there are no differences. Like we're all people. He's still saying it, but he's saying it in a more like, it's a more educated way to be ignorant to it, right? Like I see it, but I'm not colorblind. I'm not saying I don't see color. I do see the color, but I just don't think it matters. So that's probably worse, right? I don't. True. Prove it. I don't know how to prove that. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out. I'm gonna call it for tonight. I was already not gonna stream. I spoke at a school board meeting about pronouns. Thank you, Sliver. It's a rationalization for his cognitive dissonance. Yeah. He's uncomfortable thinking about the dissonance in his head. So he's rationalizing it. That makes sense. Only 18% of Americans ever left America. A large majority live in a 40-mile perimeter. Yeah. That's crazy. If you really think about how big America is. I do know people like that too. You can find people anywhere. People anywhere can have a Southern accent, for example, if they never engage with the outside world. They just, I don't know. It's interesting for sure. All right. Well, I am gonna call it a night. Like I said, I'll be back on tomorrow. If you want to call in tomorrow, feel free. If you want to drop a donation in, remember Joel Politics on Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. Leave a message for me. I'm starting a fund to get a streaming PC because my computer keeps lagging terribly, and it's really hurting my ability to make content. So you're in the 18%. Yeah, it's really hard to do these streams where I'm doing a call and googling stuff, and like even today, my computer started lagging. I started lagging halfway through. So I'm looking to get a streaming PC. I'm trying to raise like $1,000 for that within probably, I said end of February. And thank you to the already donators. Already got $75 as of that. And if you're a member and stuff, don't worry about it. But if you have extra cash, if you got it like that, if you got that money, if you got it like that, okay, then send it over. But if you don't send it over. But again, Joel Politics, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, all that fun stuff. I hope everyone has a fantastic night. Thank you. I should get some rest. Zell? DW. Crap. I'll show you guys my I'll edit my speech I gave. That'll make you guys want to donate. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was a long day. I streamed because I'm addicted to it now, and I feel like I need to stream. I know, DW. I must not want your money. I'll work on it. I'll work on it. Today was I've had some personal stuff going on, so some personal stuff going on. There's no way, bro. I could not imagine being this Trump sexual.
We were doing research. That's how I feel proud of her. Everybody was impressed. It was a great debut. And
she lied so much about so many things. I did not see a person lie like this. I don't even know, bro.
She led off brilliantly with the drone story. Yep. Very smart tactic.
The drone story that was the FAA. How is that a smart tactic? It was nothing. She said nothing. They were approved aircrafts. And some were personal or private aircrafts. Okay. Nice update. Conspiracy broken. Thank you for your contribution. DEI hire.
And she said, yeah, the drone.
You know, like, how Republicans only get blondes to be their press people? Like Kellyanne Conway, and who's the other one's name? It's always blondes. It's interesting. I'll tell you what. It is always blondes. Kellyanne, who's the other one's name? Kellyanne Conway, and then the crap. She has a TV show now. What was her name? She's so annoying. I can see her face. Sean Spicer comes to mind. What was her name? Crap. Not Kellyanne. It was the younger version. Thank you, Cam. Sean Spicer is the first blonde to be Sean Trump. What was her name? Okay, I forget her name. Not Megyn Kelly. It was the other one. You can address people without gender, bro. Dude. Tell that to Republicans, bro. Kamala Harris started running, and all I heard was about her gender. That's the first 50 things I heard about Kamala were all of her genders. I heard about her being a woman like every single day. It was about her being a woman. Not Huckabee Sanders. It was the other one. Wait, here. Wait, let me get the picture real quick. Trump press secretary. This one. Yeah, you're right. Whoever said her name, yeah, you're right about, yeah, there you go. So we have her. We had her. She looks like very young. Is she young? Because it looks like she's wearing makeup to try and look older. How old is Sweet Caroline? Sweet Caroline. Oh, she was born in 19. She's only 27. Yeah, she's young. How many people did Trump have, bro? Wait, did he fire Sean Spicer? Wait, why did Trump? How many press secretaries did Trump? Wait a second. Wait. Why did Trump have 4 press secretaries? Why? Four press secretaries, dude. His White House had 4 press secretaries, 4 chiefs of staff, 4 communications directors. That's a sign of authoritarianism too. High turnover because of loyalty tests, but the first time around it was harder. Like it's the same thing they're doing now. Thank you, Sliver, for $2. Thank you. Yeah, it's the same thing. How is Tucker Carlson's son qualified? Got a load of this guy. Got a load of this guy. Bro, kill me. Dude, look at this guy, dude. Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Like, come on. Oh my god, bro. 24 years old. Same age. He looks like he's about 20, maybe 18. But the son of Tucker Carlson, Buckley Carlson's crazy. The son of Tucker Carlson, Buckley Carlson. That's insane, bro. Buckley Carlson is set to join VP Vance's office as deputy press secretary. DEI, bro. DEI is crazy. Why does he look like a Wolverine? He looks like a nightmare. Nightmares. 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 Oh my god. Oh, I can't look at this guy's face. Ugh. I hate this stupid look on it. He has that dumbass look on his face all the time, dude. White excellence right here, baby. Orange. Dude, it's crazy. Look at the bronzer. That's insane. That's insane. There's no way this is a real person. There's no way this is a real human being, bro. That bronzer's insane. He's actually so orange. It's crazy. I think he's like more tan than him. Like, that's crazy, bro. You can't do that. That's illegal. Bro. All right. We're going to bed. Here's the Discord link. If you're not on Discord. If you're not on Discord, here you go. You can join Discord. Come chat. 1 second. Sick. Whoops. Well, the propaganda does not need to be extreme, but yeah, prepare for extreme propaganda. Roger Ailes in the movie Vice about Cheney. Yeah, that's crazy. Reverse DEI. That's what they want. Because reverse DEI, everything they say is projection. So like reverse DEI is just what they do when they're in power. Is giving people jobs when they don't deserve it. So it's like, wait. Pothos? What are pothos? Oh, I don't know what that is. I had no idea. I'm pretty sure they have a bad name. No idea. Not on Discord by people. Cam, join Discord. Thank you, $5. Thank you, Mr. Hooperverse, for $5. I almost said thank you, $5. Sleepy Joe. Yeah, true. Sleepy Joe. Thank you, $5. Thank you, $5 for Mr. Hooperverse. Thank you. Really? I don't know about that, buddy. How do we get here? The internet. I don't know what to do, bro. I don't know what to do. All right. Good night, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. The thingy by the couch. Yeah, I don't know what those are. No idea. I could not answer your question. Discord, you need to verify yourself if you join it, by the way. If you're not already in there. But yeah. Busy enough with YouTube chats. Oh, the Discord's a battleground, Cam. The Discord is a battleground. So like if you ever want to come in there, it's fun though. There's a bunch of text channels, but it is really fun. I can't open it up because I need to argue with people if I do, and there's always someone saying they say something really dumb in there. But yeah, the YouTube chats are kind of crazy anyway. But ooh, people say things in there that get me going. Thank you, Mr. Hooververse, from $5, $2. I feel like we need to call out when they say like, "Why is Trump bad when everything he does is good?" Like we just need to make fun of them. We just gotta make fun of him. Why is Trump bad when everything he does is good? It's like, all right. Good night. Thank you guys. Thank you. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern time sharp, which means like 10:45 probably. I'm a little late sometimes. Don't tell anyone. All right, see y'all. Yeah, they're propagate plants. Yeah, you could. That's what you do. I forget what it is, but you propagate plants. That's all I really know. See you guys tomorrow. Test tubes. My short stream is still open. Say your piece.
I have no peace. No justice, no peace. You shouldn't overuse the Trump sexual. The term will have more sting if you use it sparingly.
Yeah. So like every other word. These Trump sexuals keep on being Trump sexual, and that's why they think all these Trump sexual ideas, because if they're not Trump sexual, then Trump's gonna fire them for not being Trump sexual enough.
That was a bar.
He barely said Trump sexual tonight. Like,
yeah.
Only in the beginning.
Oh, DJ's been thinking about this though. He's been thinking about this all day, every day, about the practical use of the word.
Because DJ is a Trump sexual.
No,
well, essentially, I'm deeply closeted.
Deeply closeted.
All right, I'm ending the stream.
Stuck in the woke
Said the
closet.
Cambridge. God, no, yeah, I agree though. Like I was thinking about the debate I was gonna have. If I have the debate versus that, I'm gonna make a video calling him out because he That Andrew Wilson guy called me out heavy on Twitter and then backed out from the debate. So I'm making stuff calling him out. I'm gonna call him out to his fan base and make them.
What is your Twitter? Plug your Twitter.
I don't like my Twitter.
Oh.
I have a picture of Tim
I don't
Walz
like
as my
anyone's
profile
Twitter.
picture, so they just say tampon Tim 50 times in a row. They don't actually address anything.
Hell yeah.
I love that we stole dead name X.
Oh, I'm never
Twitter
gonna...
was so clever, dude. We tweeted it. Retweet. It's a retweet. I'm gonna tweet something. It's super clever.
Little birdie told you.
Yeah.
That's good. Is that where it came from?
I mean, it makes sense.
Retweet.
It does.
It's like X is just like an empty dead variable. It explains the world we're heading into. It's like the dystopian, just like bullshit.
Yeah. Insert meaning here.
Modern brutalist architecture.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like anything that's modern. We need to billions must fry.
Okay, good night, guys.
Bye.